Pritchett Maharaj is revealing this discussion by Narada Muni. While singing enthusiastically in this way, the sage instructed his own tongue, which was greedy to chant the glories of Lord Madhava. Oh, you are too busy talking about the greatness of our master. To stop that tongue, he then seized it with his teeth. He's joking. He's chastising his tongue for misbehaving, uncontrollably glorifying Krishna. His tongue was sincerely relishing the pleasure of glorifying Krishna. There was little hope that Narada Muni could stop it, but he's just joking and demonstrating. Stop, tongue, stop. But Brahma has four tongues, and he can't fully describe the glories of Sri Madhava. Anantadev has thousands of tongues. He can't fully glorify Lord Madhava. So Narada Muni is telling his own tongue, you're so insignificant. How could you be so impudent to think you could describe the glories of the Lord? Just stop. He's joking, of course. He then speaks to his tongue. Dear tongue, this effort of yours attests to your great fortune. As far as you are able, just go on speaking something about these beloved devotees of Krishna. In other words, it's impossible for you to adequately glorify Krishna. So try always talking about the glories of the devotees. So to avoid discouraging his own tongue, which fails to adequately glorify Krishna, Narada is giving some practical advice to the tongue, his own tongue. If you cannot adequately praise Krishna, then at least try to praise his devotees. Now, if you can't describe the devotees' transcendental glories, then what? Simply describe their activities. Oh, but if you can't describe everything about the devotees' activities, then just say something about them. Even if you can't speak with full realization, just speak about their glories anyway. The attempt to say something will be all auspicious. So he now proposes, Narada Muni proposes to his tongue. You would do better to glorify the Lord's devotees than to glorify the Lord. Although the greatness of the devotees is also ultimately indescribable, the Lord's greatness has no beginning or end, defeats all attempts at analysis and classification, and cannot be fully understood even by the Lord himself. So we're comparing the indescribable glories of the devotees with the indescribable glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narratives then pointing out the Lord's devotees appear similar to human beings, so my tongue should be able to describe their deeds. Then again, if my tongue offends the devotees by making false statements about them or distorting accounts of their activities, the devotees will easily overlook those mistakes because devotees are always compassionate to unfortunate persons. Therefore, Narada Muni recommends glorifying the Vaishnavas as the best engagement for his tongue. So then he goes on with his glorification of the Pandavas. He asks, O great saintly Pandavas, is anyone bold enough to let his tongue describe the unique love for Krishna that each of you has, or the special mercy he bestows upon each of you? So I thought that was a very interesting section of Narada Muni instructing his tongue, seizing his own tongue with his teeth and joking to stop his tongue from chanting the glories of Krishna. then pointing out the importance of glorifying Krishna's devotees. So we have a brief section amidst all this about Krishna's kindness, which is a bit controversial because normally someone would think, how can kindness be manifest in terminating someone's life? Of course, people think mistakenly that euthanasia is an act of kindness. They can't see all the suffering that awaits the person who undergoes such an experience. They can't even understand, just like I was reading once about the older President Bush. And he was in the hospital on his way out, whether he left his body on that particular occasion in the hospital or the next one, I don't remember. But he was in bad shape in the hospital. And one of his old cronies, who was Secretary of State during that Bush's regime, he felt compassionate and overwhelmed with kindness. He said, my boss, former president, has got to have his whiskey and got to have his steak. So he snuck into the hospital. This is the former U.S. Secretary of State. He snuck into the hospital with some steak and bourbon to please his master. And he said, oh, the former President Bush was so happy. I did, I did such a great deed. And of course, the doctors were freaked out. So, what is kindness? Involving someone in simple activity is kindness. Then you say, well, look at Krishna. How can you say that he's being kind when he's killing? So Narada Muni explains. We speak of Krishna's kindness, but even the punishments he metes out are worthy of praise. To this, there have been many witnesses, including Kamsa, Kalia, and Putana, and in the more distant past, Bali and others. So in his commentary, Sanatana Goswami explains about Kamsa's unfavorable Krishna consciousness, but he was Krishna conscious. He was overwhelmed day and night by the dread, the fear of being killed by Krishna. But his that bhava he had was so intense that it's an involuntary meditation, by the way. But still, he became completely Krishna conscious, unfavorably. That sounds kind of radical to you. How can you be unfavorably Krishna conscious? This is why Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam. Serve Krishna favorably. That means unfavorable is possible. So Kamsa is a first-class example of unfavorable Krishna consciousness, but he was Krishna conscious. So there's a Bhagavatam verse quoted, and we'll go to that verse. Asina samvishams tishtan bunjana payatan piban chintayana rishikesham pashyatan mayam jagat. While sitting on his throne, or sitting in his room, while lying on his bed, or indeed while situated anywhere, and while eating, sleeping, walking, or drinking, Kamsa saw what? Only his enemy, the Supreme Lord, Rishikesh. In other words, by thinking of this all-pervading enemy, Kamsa became unfavorably Krishna conscious. Let's see if we can bring up that verse. Yes. Mm. So the purport describes how Kamsa, by cultivating Krishna consciousness in a different way. What's the different way? Inimically, was uncomfortable in all the affairs of his life, whether it's sitting, sleeping, walking, or eating. He was always in danger mode. So this is a difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. The devotee tries to see Krishna in everything, and the non-devotee wants to avoid Krishna in everything. So Prabhupada gives the example of materialistic scientists who do anything to avoid thinking that life is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. They don't like that statement in Bhagavad Gita, Mamayavamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Life comes from life. The living entities are fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord. They don't like that. They want that life comes from matter. And that way, no Supreme Personality Godhead, no spirit soul, no spiritual energy. Everything is just the result of random chemical combinations. They'll admit we don't know exactly when chemistry becomes biology. But we will find out in the future. So the example is given of the contrast between Kamsa and Rupa Goswami. Kamsa was always absorbed in thoughts of Hari, but he wasn't happy. A devotee, however, whether sitting on a throne or beneath a tree, is always happy. Kamsa was on the throne. He wasn't happy. Rupa Goswami is under a tree. He's always happy. Rupa Goswami, the example given, Chakra Torna Mashesha Mandalapati Sainim Sada Tuchava. He gave up his top government post just beneath the tree and chant, happy beneath a tree in Vrindavan. So this is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. And that comfortable position of a devotee can be established by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Kamsa was continuously thinking of Hari. Wherever he looked, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To someone who's in prema, that kind of vision gives bliss. But Kamsa is in fear. So he's in distress. So both are seeing the Supreme Personality Godhead. Kamsa, the demon, is seeing, and the devotee is seeing. But one is in bliss and the other is in fear. But they're both seeing. So Kamsa had a vision that's rare for even the greatest yogis. Still, the result of the quality of his vision filled him with distress. Whereas a devotee seeing that would be filled with the bliss of praying. So this is how to be unfavorably Krishna conscious. But still note, Kamsa is Krishna conscious. This is how liberal Krishna is. There's favorable Krishna consciousness, there's unfavorable Krishna consciousness. It all relates to me. However you approach me, you come out better. So once again, we're proving the point. So let's go to the section of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 44, the death of King Kamsa. So Krishna and Balaram have just killed the professional wrestlers, Chanura and Mushtika. And so Everyone is rejoicing, not simply because this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has killed these young boys. Krishna and Balaram have killed these super wrestlers, but because it was an astounding athletic feat. Not everyone in the audience was a devotee, but everyone could appreciate, wow, this is the Super Bowl for real. Unprecedented. So everyone's rejoicing except Kamsa. The Brahmanas and sadhus are all exclaiming, Sadhu, sadhu, excellent, excellent. But Kamsa is about to go mad. Everyone else is filled with intense joy. And now Kamsa is going to rage. He's going to explode. His best wrestlers had all been killed. Or else, what else? What had they done? Ran away. They fled. So Kamsa stopped the musical performance because he had musicians playing like a band to encourage his wrestlers. So now his wrestlers are dead. Stop the music. But then there's discussion amongst the acharyas. The music didn't really stop? Everyone was actually happy that the wrestlers were dead, that Krishna and Balaram were winning. So the musicians says, and comes is yelling, stop the music. Some acharyas say it was the demigods who were playing the instruments. They didn't care what Kamsa thought. In any case, it was the place was in an uproar. And Kamsa is trying to yell above all this chaos and bedlam. So you can just imagine the madungas are beating, all the various instruments are playing at once, and the devatas are roaring from the sky, Jai Govinda, Jai Govinda. So Kamsa, his face is sweating, and he glares at Krishna. Where's Kamsa? He's high up in the stands. What do you call that at stadiums? Uh, grandstand. Kamsa's high up in the grandstand on his royal throne. So he's looking down at Krishna who's in on the playing field, so to speak, and he's glaring at Krishna. So with his left hand, he tries to stop the music, and all the instruments, as we said, begin playing on their own. But Kamsa wants his words to be heard. And what's he going to do? Drive the two wicked sons of Vasudeva out of the city. Throw Krishna and Balaram out of the city, those wicked sons of Vasudeva. Actually, he's glorifying Krishna and Balaram. In what way? Huh? Well, particularly, he's saying they like the forest better than the city. Jai Govinda. Throw them out of the city. So that's the upside of what Kamsa is roaring. What else? Confiscate the cowherd's property. Shut down the creamery. take all the ghee, take all the milk products, confiscate everything from them. Because that's real wealth. Ghee, curd, yogurt, milk, took it all away. As for Nanda, arrest him. Kill Vasudev. Why, he tricked me. He switched. He did a change up on me, sending clandestinely Krishna to Raj and making me think that a daughter had been born to Devaki. Kill Vasudeva. Kill my father, Ugrasen. My father is always siding with my enemies. He's going berserk now. So he's issuing all these executive orders. He's especially mad at Vasudeva. You broke your promise. I trusted you. His own father, Kamsa's own father, Ugrasena, he wants him dead. He's partial. He follows Vasudeva. He's just going insane. So he's raving like a madman. What does Krishna do? Krishna is intensely angry. Everything has to be there in the Supreme Personality Godhead, but it's Shuddha, pure. You can't imagine what it's like to be purely angry. Satchidananda anger. Anger in the material world is a mode of passion. It pollutes the consciousness. In the material, anger indicates frustrated material desires. So Krishna's anger, that's of another quality completely. So what does Krishna do? He's down on the ground on the playing field. Kamsa's high in the grandstand on the royal throne. Krishna, with one jump, jumps up from the ground high into the grandstand and lands right on top of Kamsa. So Kamsa has a big golden crown on. Krishna grabs Kamsa's hair and knocks the crown off. And then Krishna takes Kamsa and throws him from the top of the grandstand down onto the playing field. And then what does Krishna do? He jumps from the top of the grandstand and lands on top of Kamsa on the ground, using Kamsa as a mattress. The cushion is hitting the ground. Krishna is hitting the ground. And then Krishna starts pounding him with his fists, finishes him off in that way. How did Krishna get up onto the grandstand so without any interference? He jumped up. He had jumped from the playing field into the grandstand at the top where Kamsa's throne was. He had jumped so quickly, they couldn't see him. That's how athletic Krishna is. He was up there in a flash. No, and poor Kamsa knew it. He had Krishna on top of him, and then Krishna threw him far down on the ground below. So that's how Krishna finished off Kamsa. You have to appreciate how great a warrior was Kamsa. Even the Devatas were afraid of him. So you can just visualize Krishna straddling the chest of Kamsa, striking him over and over again. So then what happened? Kamsa's brothers, his sons, his 8 sons attacked, and Balaram easily took care of them. So what does Krishna do? Thinking of the feelings of Vasudeva and Devaki. Krishna's thinking, they are not sure he's dead. They may be thinking that I just knocked him unconscious. This is how do you say, considerate Krishna is of others' feelings. My parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, I don't think they're convinced that this monster's dead. They may be thinking that Kamsa is simply knocked unconscious. So what does Krishna do? He takes the huge body of Kamsa. Kamsa was huge. I don't know if you realize that. And Krishna drags the body all around the arena. Like just like after sports championships, the players march around the arena. like in basketball, college basketball, they cut the net from the hoop, and all sorts of stuff like this. So Krishna is having his own post-championship game celebration. Yeah, so I say this because you have to understand how huge was Kamsa's body. So Krishna is dragging it, showing his parents, see, he's dead. He's dead. Have no doubt. And where is Krishna going with the body? Dragging this huge mountain-like body. He's going to the bank of the Yamuna, where the funeral ceremony will be held. And the body is so huge and heavy that it's cutting a canal to the Yamuna. It's just making such a ditch through the dirt. So the audience was in shock. Everyone was astonished. They've never seen such an athletic feat before. So the whole arena is filled with cries of astonishment. So what does Krishna do next? First, Srila Goswami explains more about Kamsa's unfavorable Krishna consciousness. Kamsa had always been disturbed by the thought that the Supreme Lord would kill him. So therefore, when drinking, eating, moving about, sleeping, or simply breathing, the king had always seen the Lord before him with the disc weapon in his hand. Thus, Kamsa achieved the rare boon of attaining a form like the Lord's, Sarupya Mukti. Some other, he got the liberation of having the same form as the Lord in Vaikuntha. There's some fine print here, just like with Putana. Let's see. The acharyas like Jiva Goswami, they put some fine print in there. He attained this kind of a special radiant form. Let's see if I can find it. Who is this speaking? This is Sanatan Goswami explaining. He attained a form, special form given to demons, and that form is composed of Brahman, not such a personal form of a personal associate. So, like with Putana, she got a form like Krishna's mother. Then again, it wasn't in the sweetest part of Braj. And so, in general, we say that Putana got a form like Krishna's mother, and Kamsa got Sarupya Mukti. He got the Mukti, the liberation of having the same form as the Supreme Lord. But there's always this fine print. But again, as we said the other day, we don't want to get so much caught up in the fine print that we miss the bhava impact of the whole Leela. We want our hearts to respond to the various flavors of the Leelas. Those flavors of the Leelas are the actual detailed facts. That's why, whereas I explained this in Los Angeles, in Bhagavatam, chronology is not the most important thing. When you're educated in school in the standard way, they make you memorize dates. How many of you memorize dates? What dates they make you memorize in Bulgaria? Liberation from the Turks. When is that? 3rd of March. What year? 1878. Anyone else? What dates? Come on, American. 1776. Who said that? Oh, oh, you had to learn that one. Anyone else? They make you learn dates in Vietnam? Which one? The end of the Vietnam War or something? 30th of April, 1975. What happened? Withdrew, left Vietnam, stopped bombing the place to pieces in the name of democracy. What about Finland? In Finland, they celebrate the date alcohol was invented. That's right. What about Mexico? Okay. Anyone else? South Africa? March 24th. March 24th. What year? 1994. 1994. What happened? Democratic election. First democratic election. And the last one. Any other countries here?
Jamaica.
Jamaica, what?
August 6, 1962, independence from Britain.
Okay, August
6.
1962. Okay. So we've been unconsciously drilled in the Western fetish or addiction for dates and chronology, where that's not so important in Bhagavatam. Don't you know that sometimes Shukadeva Goswami presents Krishna Lila out of order? Now, from the Western point of view, that's a fault. The Western point of view is first this happens, then that happens, and that happens, and you got to know the sequence. But Bhagavatam is a rasa shastra. It's all about the flow of ecstasy, and sometimes Shukadeva Goswami just loses the plot, literally, because he's overwhelmed by ecstasy, and that's part of Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam, as a rasa shastra, is the flow of ecstasy. More than that's more important than just some dry dates. So the flow of rasa in Bhagavatam, ecstatic rasa, overpowering the chronological order, that's not a defect. But from the Western point of view, it is. So you may wonder, like with an engineering mind, why this is out of order. The description of the Rajasuya Yajna is out of order. But Shukadeva Goswami sometimes sticks to the order and sometimes doesn't. And we just heard about Narada Muni talking about the Pandavas, and he's seizing his own tongue with his teeth. He's joking. Stop glorifying the Lord. It's impossible to fully glorify the Lord. Try glorifying his devotees. Even that you'll never get to the end of. But you have a better chance, tongue. So then the question should come to you, regardless of the details about Kamsa's liberation. How did he attain liberation, although he's so sinful? It's because of Krishna's unlimited kindness and attractiveness. Now, what happened in Kamsa's previous birth as Kalanimi? He was killed by an incarnation of the Lord named Ajit. He did not attain liberation because only Krishna in his original form gives liberation. That's a whole subject Rupa Goswami describes in Lagu Bhagavatamrita. So if you want to understand more about some says Kalanimi, you can ask Pandava Bandava. It gets so intricate, I just can't keep up with it. You remember all the details? In any case, Kamsa as Kalanimi, killed by Ajit, the incarnation of the Lord, did not get liberation. Now he has attained it by unfavorably thinking of Krishna. So it's his 8 younger brothers who attack Krishna and Balaram, not his sons. They're Kshatriyas. They want to avenge their brother's death because that's the way of the family system. You take on the debts. You feel indebted to what happens to your relatives. So we have a debt to our brother. We have to absolve ourselves of that debt. We have to kill his killer. So Balaram just takes care of them so easily. Shukadeva Goswami says, like a lion easily kills other animals. So there's a great celebration. Kettle drums are playing in the sky. Brahma, Shiva, and other devatas are raining down flowers. Their wives are dancing. But then amazingly, and I don't know if you ever wondered about this, you get about 4 or 5 verses spoken by Kamsa's wives lamenting. Did you ever think about why so much attention to what the wives of Kamsa are doing and lamenting? Tough luck on them, tough cookies. You married a demon. What do you expect? But this is how broad-minded the Bhagavatam is. So Shukadeva Goswami says, "My dear king, Pritchett Maharaj, the wives of Kamsa and his brothers, aggrieved by the death of their well-wishing husbands, came forward with tearful eyes, beating their heads. It was a pathetic scene. They were beating their heads, they were pulling out their own hair, crying. Their husbands are laying on the funeral pyre where the bodies are going to be burned at the bank of the Yamuna. The wives, Kamsa had about 1,000 wives. They're all embracing the body of Kamsa, and the wives of Kamsa's brothers are embracing the bodies, and everyone's wailing loudly, shedding constant tears. The loud, pitiful voices. It's a huge scene. So we're thinking, oh, who cares about them? We care about the devotees. But you're going to be astonished at what Krishna does as the women are crying out, "Oh, master, oh, dear one, oh, knower of religious principles, oh, kind and compassionate protector of the shelterless." They're emotionally upset. By your death, we are also dying. Not only we are dying, but our whole household and our children. O great hero among men, without you, its master, this city has lost everything. All good fortune, all festivities come to an end because your qualities are not present in anyone else. Well, you have to give them credit. They were chaste wives. They just picked they just were, arranged to marry the wrong guy. They're going on and on. Oh, dear one. And now they're starting to be a bit truthful. You've been brought to this state because of the terrible violence you committed against innocent creatures. How can one who harms others attain happiness? So some of the women who were lamenting with the other ladies understood the truth and spoke it. You committed excessive violence to sinless beings. You made them die with great suffering. And they even referred to Krishna. Lord Krishna causes the appearance and disappearance of all beings in this world. He is their maintainer as well. One who disrespects Krishna can never prosper happily. So, what does Krishna do? Just see how sensitive and kind Krishna is. He personally arranges for the funeral ceremony. Now, just imagine someone kills your spouse, and then the killer of your spouse arranges the funeral ceremony. Krishna's got a lot of nerve. All these ladies are lamenting, pulling out their hair, beating their heads, lamenting the death of their husband and their husband's brothers. And Krishna speaks consoling words. Shukadeva Goswami said, after consoling the royal ladies, Lord Krishna, sustainer of all the worlds, arranged for the prescribed funeral rites to be performed. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in paraphrasing what Krishna says, tells us, he said like this, O wives of Kamsa, today you have met with great misfortune, but I am obligated to protect you. So why should you worry? I'm the maintainer of all people, Lokabhavana, with my natural compassion. And actually, because Krishna is doing his Nara Leela, his human-like Leela, he manifested some great unhappiness and feeling sorry for the ladies suffering. And he comfortably, he comforted the women personally with tears in his eyes. He's being for real. But remember, he just killed their husband and dragged his body all around the arena. Then he can switch gears like this and with tears in his eyes. Oh, this has been a great disaster. And he means it. This is Krishna, all perfect in whatever he does. And then in Hari Vamsa, the Shastra Hari Vamsa describes that hearing the excessive miserable lamentation of Kamsa's wives, Krishna criticizes himself in front of everyone. Oh, I have made widows out of Kamsa's 1,000 wives because of I was influenced by human anger. He's criticizing himself. So Krishna arranges for the funeral rites. He wanted to stop the lamentation of the ladies and to also maintain the purity of the holy place. Too much material lamentation going on here. So again, Krishna's kindness, his impartiality. So any questions at this point? How do you ever find another person like this? He feels for his parents. He knows his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, aren't convinced that Kamsa's dead. They think he could be just unconscious. So Krishna drags the body all around the arena to show everyone he's dead, he's dead. Just see how considerate Krishna is. And then the widowed wives of Kamsa, Krishna consoles them, even says, oh, I was acting out of anger, influenced by the qualities of a human being. But he personally arranges for the funeral ceremony. Now, we talked about the destination of Kamsa, right? What about the wrestlers? We don't get much information about them and their destination. But Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita points out that while wrestling, what were the wrestlers doing with Krishna? They were embracing him and he's embracing them. So they were liberated at least into the impersonal Brahman. Sometimes the Shastra will just say liberation without going into whether it's liberation to Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan or liberation into Brahman effulgence. But these wrestlers died embracing Krishna in a wrestler's lock. So just think of that good fortune. Kamsa died with Krishna on top of him. So Kamsa was in contact with the lotus feet and he could look up and see Krishna's face while being terminated. How kind is that of Krishna to do such a thing? So we'll look back at Brihad Bhagavatamrita. At the time of Kamsa's death, Krishna dragged him from his platform in the arena and jumped on his chest. Thus, as Kamsa left his body, he was able to feel Krishna's foot on his chest and see Krishna's blessed face. Being punished by Krishna also spiritually benefited many allies of Kamsa, including the wrestlers of Mathura and kings like Jarasandha. So it's a long purport describing how so many demons benefited from Krishna's kindness in killing them. And we get some information about the wrestlers, Chanura and Mushtika. They're less blamable than Kamsa. Why? That's right. Opponents like wrestlers Chanura and Mushtika were less culpable. Fighting against Krishna under Kamsa's orders, they had become infected by Kamsa's envious spirit. Still, the wrestlers were allowed the favor of being embraced by Krishna during combat, just like the cowherd boys of Braj in their mock fights with Krishna. Krishna also honored the wrestlers by conducting their funerals. So Krishna's conducting of the funerals was not just for Kamsa or Kamsa's brothers, it was also for the wrestlers. This is kindness. So any questions? Yes.
Why would Krishna say that to the wild that I'm lamenting to something person or affected by anything like you?
It's the Leela. Krishna's enjoying. He's I really feel when he's not faking, he really felt, oh, what a bad thing I did for your husbands. He's being truthful to them, but it's not the complete truth. Come on, you're a married man. You should know these things.
Yeah.
Krishna's into the drama. He's into the whole scene. You know what happens at home if you don't do that, right? You got to get into it, right? If you just try to maintain a clinical, you're in trouble, right? You got to get into the drama. Then everything is better, right? Okay, so if you know that, well, certainly Krishna knows that. So he's getting into the drama. Oh, ladies, I shouldn't have done this. Sorry about killing your husbands. I'm going to help you. I'm going to perform the funeral ceremony. Yeah, I guess anger overtook me, acting like a human being. It's, it's all part of the Leela. But he really is feeling that way. But that's not the whole picture. It's not that Krishna is being ingenuine. He sees the suffering of the ladies. Some of the ladies, as we heard, were ignoring the reality of the hideousness of their dead husband. Others understood, you've caused so much cruelty. What do you expect for your outcome? So it's a whole scene. And Krishna's playing his part. If you want to look at it devoid of all those emotional exchanges, what is Krishna doing? He is arranging the funeral ceremony for all these dead persons. So we might just focus on, well, Krishna is being magnanimous. These rascals, they attacked him, have caused so much havoc, and yet Krishna's performing their funeral ceremony. How munificent is Krishna? You can look at it in that way, which is certainly correct. And then also you can look at Krishna's responding to the grief of these ladies. Even though their husband was a demon, he's responding. He had tears in his eyes. He's acknowledging the human suffering, but that's not the ultimate reality. So in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna presents to Krishna that if I fight in this war, it's going to cause a lot of suffering. It seems like Krishna's oblivious to that. No, but Krishna, of course, sees the whole picture, the big picture. So similarly, Krishna knows the big picture. Everyone can see that Kamsa was hideous and has been killed. But why can't Krishna feel for the suffering of of the wives over their dead husband? It's Leela. He's into it, but he's able to deal with all these perspectives at the same time, and that's what's inconceivable to us.
Everyone sees it differently.
Yes, we just take it one way, but Krishna is able to handle all these viewpoints, all these feelings, which are contradictory. This person's feeling contradicts that person's feeling. Krishna's able to just be with it all and go with the flow. Then he's got another concern. Who knows what his other concern is? Vasudeva and Devaki. They've been watching the killing of Kamsa. Krishna is worried. They're going to not be able to relate to me as my parents. They've seen me act like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in fact, when Krishna and Balaram approach Devaki and Vasudeva, now that Kamsa is dead, they for the first time they approach Vasudeva and Devaki. Vasudeva and Devaki are in awe and reverence. Oh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna doesn't want that. So he puts on a whole drama with the help of Yogamaya. Oh, mother, oh, father, we could not enjoy our childhood with you due to our misfortune. We were away from home. You could not have the benefit of raising us as children. Oh, the way destiny works. He tugged at their heartstrings, and of course, Yogamaya is acting. This is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is your son. So what does Vasudeva and Devaki do? They pick Krishna Balaram up on their laps. Oh, so if you can accept that, why can't you accept Krishna soothing the the wives, the widowed wives of Kamsa? He's just expert at, inconceivably expert at dealing with this person, this situation, that person, that situation. So he was concerned that Vasudeva and Devaki had seen him kill Kamsa. They were in the arena somehow or other. And so Krishna was concerned they would not be able to relate with Vatsalya Prem. So with the help of Yogamaya, and Krishna staged this whole drama of tugging at their hearts. Oh, you could not enjoy our childhood with oh this, oh that, and they just began crying, and they picked up Krishna, put him on their lap. This is Bhagavatam. It's a Rasa Shastra. Any other questions? Yes.
So, uh, all of this Rasa Shastra, Krishna having so many inconceivable emotions that he's able to play a role with because he wants to have a reflecting in all of his incarnations, like all the Vishnu incarnations, guys that person can play any role he wants to perfectly, but it's still him.
Actually, the acharyas say that this ability of Krishna you'll see reflected in all the other avatars, but not present fully. There's a reflection of it. It shows up partially. That's why, as we said the other day, in Lagu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami isolates three forms of Krishna as being special due to their ability to reciprocate. Para Avasta, he calls them. There's Lord Nrsingadev, and more intense is Lord Ramchandra, and most intense is Lord Krishna. We tend to focus on Lord Nrsingadev's power. He's the ultimate horror movie. But actually, Rupa Goswami is pointing out that Nrsingadeva's affection for Prahlad was the most astonishing thing, even more than her Nrsingadeva's ferocity. More astonishing was his affection for Prahlad. His putting his paw on Prahlad's head, and then bear in mind, Nrsingadeva appeared not just for the benefit of Prahlad, but for the benefit of all devotees, showing that all devotees can take shelter of Lord Nrsingadeva in times of danger. So it's the reciprocating ability of Lord Nrsingadeva that puts him in the top three. And then, of course, there's Ram, who, as we talked about the other day, when he was exiled to the forest, plants and creepers shed tears out of separation. But that was just one day. Whereas Bilba Mangala Thakur says in Braj, this happens every day, even though Krishna is there. The trees, the plants are crying and shivering, and the trees are shooting out sap. I don't know if it was maple syrup. Nitai Chand's on a maple syrup campaign. So, so we have to start thinking of reciprocation and the fullness of emotional interaction. That's what makes Lord Nrsingadeva, Lord Ram, and Lord Krishna as the ultimate. That makes them special. Whereas you heard that Kalanemi, who was Kamsa in a previous life, was killed by Ajit, an incarnation of the Lord we don't hear too much about. Ajit, but Kamsa didn't get liberation. Anything else? Yes.
They get to some area like to explain Sukha Ishwarya, can they?
That's Putana.
Yes, and other one get some, yeah, but
I didn't. It's everything is individual.
further develop relationship and um, become close to Krishna.
That's what happens when, in Jai's case, he appears first as Hiranyakashipu and then as Ravana. They're getting closer. Don't you remember their successive births, as described by Rupa Goswami? They didn't know that they're dealing with the personality of Godhead, but they got a next birth with more power and more opulence, more material power and more material opulence. You see that if you read Briya Bhagavatamrita, Gopakumar gets closer and closer. He starts off in Mahakalapur, the abode of liberation, Brahman effulgence. Then he goes to Vaikuntha. Then he goes to Ayodhya. Then to Dwarka. Higher and higher, more intense reciprocation. Gopakumar keeps looking for that intense reciprocation everywhere he goes, but he doesn't find it. He can only find it in Goloka Vrindavan and Gokul Vrindavan. And then there's a whole discussion of the difference and sameness of Gokul Vrindavan and Goloka Vrindavan. So you have to read Brihad Bhagavatamrita in the heaps of spare time that you have. Anything else? Yes.
But so they say that Jaya Vijaya they had three births, and we hear Krishna gave liberation, Kamsana, and but then they appear again as in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, as Devamrita.
Jai and Vijay, yes, they appear again, according to Kavi Karnapur. Yes.
So why they appear again after they're getting?
You have to ask Lord Chaitanya. You're imposing restrictions. You can't do this. Ordinarily, they should not have been in such pastimes, but they wanted to experience fighting the Supreme Lord. But ordinarily, that shouldn't have happened. But they desired it. So if you could say, well, how can they desire that to leave Vaikuntha and come to Earth to become demons? But then you're going to deny Krishna's desire also to appear in the Earth, on the Earth? Desire is a very powerful thing. So ordinarily, it shouldn't happen. That's why Krishna's appearances in this world are very special. By his desire. We say yada yada hidharma, so whenever and wherever there's a decline in religion and pratranaya sadhunam vanashaya duskatam, in order to annihilate the miscreants and protect the devotees, Krishna comes. He's not obligated to come. He doesn't have to hold to some train schedule. Who's taking the train from Lewistown or Harrisburg or Lewistown? You're staying here. Yashadev is taking you all the way to the airport. To New York. Oh, he'll drop you somewhere on the side of the road. Anyway, when you were worried about taking the train from Lewiston, you were telling me the schedule. So Krishna doesn't have to conform to a train schedule. It's really just his desire. Because of his desire, he appears once every day of Brahma. It's not mechanistically forced. He's just saying, all right, I desire to appear once every day of Brahma. The main thing is Krishna's desire. And similarly with Jai and Vijay, they had a desire to be of service in that way. They had heard about it. Krishna's battles with the demons. I wonder what it's like. So you can't deny that desire. No, you guys can't come from the spiritual world to the material world. No one falls from Vaikuntha. You can't say that. They had a desire. Just like Krishna, he has a desire. You can't say, Krishna, you cannot come here. No one falls from Vaikuntha. You can't come here. Generally, that's true. No one falls from Vaikuntha, but by your desire, as Krishna indicates, by his own desire, it can happen. It's not the norm. Like one devotee asked Prabhupada, I remember hearing that Krishna says, once having gone back to the spiritual world, you never return. So is that so? Once we go back, we'll never return? And Prabhupada said, if you really want to, you can come back. Desire is, you can't trump desire. It's the highest thing. If you really want to, you can. He said, generally, you won't want to. Once burned, twice shy. Anything else? Yes.
As you mentioned that as tradition, so if we desire and from the spiritual world come back here. I think there was a poem where I mentioned about that there's eternally conditioned souls and eternally liberated souls. So what does that mean? Eternally,
You can't trace out the beginning.
but like why is there that? Why is there such a difference
Between what?
between eternally liberated soul and Krishna? Because we come from Krishna, we part and partial stream. So why some of them are eternally liberated and some eternally conditioned?
Because you have independence. We went through this before with you, didn't we? Why are you sitting next to Nagaraj Natai? Remember we went through this? Why? What's the reason? Oh, music to the male ego's ears. He'll be flying for 1 week now. But suppose he said to you, Parmeshri Devi Dasi, I'm sitting next to you only because I'm forced to. How would you feel? Hmm?
That's okay.
Suppose Juan tells Amelia, we got married, what, 2 weeks ago? I have a confession to make. We've been together for 7 years, but, I really didn't want to. It was only because I was forced. Some older devotees in Helsinki, they said I should marry you. And so I just felt compelled to follow what they said. I really am not attracted to you. How would you feel?
Out of duty.
No, you would wish you had a chakra and cut off his head, right? So Krishna wants voluntary choice. That makes real love. We can't get this out of our head. Oh, it's like, oh, Krishna, why did you force me to stay with you in whatever capacity I was? Krishna doesn't want that kind of love. For there to be love, there has to be choice. Krishna has his Shakti tattva that's always with him, but we're Jiva tattva. Sometimes we can be covered by the illusory energy, sometimes not, by our choice. That's what it means to be marginal. You know this word marginal? Like the beach. Sometimes the waves cover the beach, sometimes not. You can't dispute that, but we love to dispute it because ultimately we want to blame Krishna. Krishna, why did you put me in this material world and make me go through all this? It's all your fault. I'm innocent, I'm helpless, and you're putting me through all this. And if we don't blame Krishna, who do we blame? Brajalila was telling me this today. Blame your guru. Last of all, think to blame yourself. Yes.
Maharaj, I've been wanting to ask you this in regards of, because excuse my ignorance, I first heard from you first time that when Nrsimhadev was killed, sorry, Hiranyakashipu was killed when Nrsimhadev, he was not conscious, that was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that remind me of the story when Krishna was fighting Shambhavan. Shambhavan or Shambhavan?
Jambavan. Yeah, it could be. It depends on what you're going to say next.
Yes. So Krishna went to take the sugar out of his kid in the cow.
Take the what?
It's the sugar from attack control.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Sorry, my accent.
La Olla.
And Shambhavan was sleeping and he woke up and he didn't know it was Krishna. He went and started to fight. And they fight for a long time. But then he recognized that was Krishna.
Yes, but Jambavan's not a demon.
Yes, he was a devotee of Lord Rama.
Yes.
But so my question is, how could you please help me to understand the connection of this, like the demons, then the leelas and the love, as you say, the desire of Krishna love, because what's the desire of also Krishna that then have a fight, and then he realized, okay, you are the Supreme Personality.
You're talking about Jambavan.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Leela.
Hmm.
During the fight, he remembered there's only one person who could battle me like this. This must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's just the way the pastime goes for the pleasure of Krishna.
But isn't that only so devotees can remember it's Krishna? And then
And why isn't that Hiranyakashipu also didn't have that realization that
He didn't have that personal animosity like Kamsa had. I explained this several days ago. Maybe you weren't here or you don't remember. Hiranyakashipu, as Rupa Goswami presents, thought, just like I have done so many austerities, standing on the tips of my toes with my arms extended for thousands of years, I developed mystic powers like that. So this half man, half lion creature must be of the same origin. Austerities, mystic powers. He didn't think this is the Supreme Personality Godhead. I've never seen a form like this before. This could only come about through massive austerities. So there was no personal animosity in terms of recognizing Krishna's qualities, activities. Same with Ravana. What was Ravana hung up on? That's all. But Shishupal was different. So each successive birth brought more and more opulence and material power, as Ravana, as Shishupal. But Shishupal had personal animosity. Each killing of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana brought the person closer in a personal, unfavorable Krishna consciousness. Just like Kamsa was Krishna conscious, but unfavorable. So Shishupal, as we said, even before he could talk properly as a baby, was blaspheming Krishna. He was chanting Krishna's names with disgust, with contempt. And he was overwhelmed by Krishna's beauty. But he hated it. So beautiful, disgusting. Always wears yellow. Lotus eyes. But the holy names and the personal beauty of Krishna had invaded Shishupal's heart. It's all about being personally impacted. Anything else? How do I pronounce your name again? Kira? Kira. Any questions? You must have some questions. Okay. Anything. Good. We hope we're serving you good meals that are digestible. All right. If there's nothing more, we'll end here. Yes. Speak slowly, please. I'm just getting used to American accents. Now I got to hear Caribbean, and then tomorrow it'll be British accents. So it takes me a couple of days to adjust.
I would like to express my gratitude and I'm sure the other members of the audience will agree. I'm taking liberty to thank you for lecture lectures, and I will say I'm sure we will be better off having those lectures.
Well, I thank you. You're an educator, retired educator,
Yes.
retired material educator, but ongoing spiritual educator. So I take your words seriously. Thank you. So we'll see you all tomorrow, as much as of you who can, for the Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappearance celebration. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaurani.
I wanted to mention that the media got to Sayananda Prabhu to do the yoga teacher training here in Gitanagari.
What?
Sayananda, the one that has